Hello and welcome back to 1874 for a special transfer show with myself, Dan Bardell, and the Athletics Aston Villa writer Jacob Tanswell. This show is sponsored by NordVPN. Head to 1874.io/NordVPN and you'll get a huge discount plus 4 months free, and it's completely risk-free because Nord offer a 30-day money-back guarantee. It'll help you get some extra football in your life. You'll be able to watch some extra football, maybe even the Villa, at the weekend if you use NordVPN and some other things as well. So do that, sign up, and it really helps us as a channel if you use NordVPN and sign up. Right then, Jacob Tanswell was a busy boy. He's had a busy day, he tells me. He was certainly busy breaking the news this morning because I was in the gym, got a text from sneaky transfers boy Jacob Tanswell telling me there's something about to break on the Athletic. And Jacob, it was that Nottingham Forest are exploring a deal to sign Matty Cash from Aston Villa. I will say they've since been linked with another right back this afternoon. They said to be constantly linked with players and constantly signing players, Nottingham Forest. But this was an interesting one this morning, Jacob.
It was interesting, and when I heard about it last night, I was surprised, and I never was under the illusion, still not under the illusion that it's particularly advanced or particularly likely. Apologies.
Look at him; he's getting transfer news as we sit here doing show.
But I thought it was interesting that Nottingham Forest are definitely interested in Cash and have held exploratory talks for a few weeks now, actually. And it's something that I think is quite interesting in terms of, like you mentioned, Nottingham Forest have been linked to multiple right backs. Rico Lewis, who's by the sounds of it going to sign a new contract at Man City. Another one that's been linked today just after our Cash story, and also Cash. So there's a list of options, and the fact that Cash is featuring quite prominently high, even if it doesn't turn out to materialise, I think it's quite interesting in terms of seeing what his future currently is at Villa, and that obviously must have been something that Forest liked about him and that attracted to him, other than the fact that he used to play for them. So with 2 years left on his contract, they'll naturally, and there has been contract talks, and he's one of the contract players that I've often referred to, but not in naming him as a player that I think will certainly be talked to at the end of the window. But a contract hasn't come yet. I think Villa have prioritised other more complex agreements, such as Boubacar Kamara first, and then they'll discuss with Matty Cash. But again, it provokes the question, doesn't it? Would you sell him?
I wouldn't personally, because I would find it very remiss if Villa went in with no senior right back into the season. If you sell him, it's another player you've got to replace, and I think there's other positions that at the moment Villa need to be looking at in terms of attacking reinforcements, and possibly right centre back as well. We've seen already Konsa sent off, so already he's missing a game.
You said he didn't need another centre back.
I like the thought of a right centre back / right back.
Okay.
I did say that, Jacob Tanswell. I did say I'm reasonably happy with Bogard, and I'd prioritise attacking players, but you lose Cash out of that defence as well. You're then short in another area, which Villa can't afford to be at the moment. Being short in the attacking areas is bad enough. Do you get the sense that Villa would sell? First, my first question to you.
I think for the right
if a reasonable offer came in.
Yeah, but I think that you could say that same about most players. But this is something that we've spoken to multiple people on this. Probably the most people I've done on the story this summer, actually. Obviously, we've always got to get things triple sourced, but this is beyond triple sourcing. This is way more than that. So the fact that both sides, or three sides if you count Forest, Cash himself, and Aston Villa, I've heard about it, shows that there is certainly discussions that have been going on, and not just in this week, but it's been probably further back than that. The fact is, and I'm quite surprised that it's only just come out now, in terms of Forest having an interest in him. But I don't know how Forest work completely, but they do typically in August and towards the end of the window, they do like to talk to multiple players in one position and keep their options open until the very last minute.
They like a splurge as well, don't they, Forest?
They do. So hence why we've seen so many right backs being linked, and very validly, to Forest.
Yeah, I could see the romantic side of it as well, with him being a former player. Would the player himself be interesting because he always strikes me as someone who's really happy to be at Villa. He's always front and centre of kind of YouTube videos like A Day in a Life and tour diaries and things like that. Matty Cash is always kind of front and centre. He's always very willing to talk to the press, always willing to help out with club media as well. He never strikes me as someone that would be unhappy, but I guess he does have emotional ties to Forest as well.
We always joke in the media if they've just lost a game or there's maybe an interview that a lot of players don't want to do, that it'll be Matty Cash that's put up, because he never moans about it. He never kicks up a fuss. He's always willing to chat. Same with John McGinn, actually. These guys talk a lot, and if you noted their media appearances, it always seems to be those two, because they're really good guys and they're very happy to speak in front of the media. I think for Matty Cash, I can't speak for him, but it's just football, really. I think he loves that at Villa. He wouldn't agitate for a move at any time. But at the same time, Nottingham Forest has that emotional connection. There are a club that have been able to refresh and rejuvenate the group, and he's still got friends there, so that would not be a surprise. But at the same time, Villa have treated him so well. Obviously, there's been contract talks or potential preliminary contract talks in the background, so he's obviously open to staying as well, and he lives in a nice area. He's done very well here, and he's still Emery's first choice right back. The question is do Villa think to themselves, maybe not this window, but in a window in January or summer, if the new contract's still not been signed, do they think, right, we can cash in on him now, excuse the pun, and find someone who's on lower wages, younger and a little bit cheaper, and that saves us money. I think that's the key question. But in terms of the overall window, I do think now Dendonka's gone, Bailey's gone, Ramsey's gone, Moreno's close to going. I know there's been reports as we sit here at 4:00 on Wednesday, personal terms are done, but there's not been an agreement over the fee yet with Villa. That could happen in the next few hours, I guess. But once those guys are gone, I expect Villa to be more positive and actually be ready to go and try and sign someone. So, I think things are looking more positive in that front. But at the same time, they're still going to have to be very careful on how they cut their cloth. And if offers come in for players, they're going to, of course, listen to them.
I don't think the answer to this will be yes, but is this one of the situations where, we saw at the weekend 2 players who were linked with moves or in progressing moves, let's say, weren't involved in the matchday squad on last weekend? There's not a chance of this derailing Cash and him not being available on Saturday. No. It's not that far advanced.
No, it's not advanced. And again, it's just how we reported it as well. It's just that Nottingham Forest have explored talks, and they're certainly working out the parameters of a deal, and they've showed interest. It's not advanced. It's not like we say Leon Bailey, who Villa were actively pushing out, and Roma were really accelerating their interest. As we know, Forest have looked at other options at right back, so this is not advanced. If all of a sudden there's a bid and it's accepted, then of course he's not going to play on Saturday. Mm-hmm. But again, right now, as we sit here, I think a move's unlikely in this window.
Okay. Well, let's talk about Leon Bailey then. You just referenced him. There's been lots of footage of him arriving in Italy and lapping up the fanfare, I will say, upon his arrival, as you would if everyone's really pleased to see you as a footballer. What have you made of that deal, Jacob? I have a tinge of disappointment that we've lost a player again. Whatever you think of him, he's still a body that's played a lot of games for Villa over the last couple of seasons. A tinge of disappointment with the structure of the deal again, that he goes on loan. I imagine they've taken on a high portion of his wage, in fairness. But there's no guarantee at the end of it. If he goes to Roma and stinks out the place, they ain't going to buy him.
Yeah, and that's one of the issues. As we reported when we first broke the news, the talks initially centred on an obligation, and that would have suited Villa perfectly down to the ground. Of course, Roma would be reluctant to do that for the reasons that I think it's the same season as they did last year. They're not going to want to pay the obligation. I do think that now Bailey's gone, Villa will look for a winger. So maybe if we have this conversation in a few days, maybe a week or so time, and Villa have got another good winger through the door, you think, okay, we can forgive Bailey going on loan. But again, financially, it's obviously you'd rather permanent, but at the same time, it's very good for Villa. 22 million euros plus 3 million. If the option, they get 3 million in loan fee, plus the Roma are covering the entirety of his salary. And what's not been reported is that the amortisation as well it is being paid by Roma. So Villa aren't spending a penny on Bailey this year. and that obviously helps massively with UEFA squad cost rules and the football earnings rule too.
Okay, now you've explained that last part. That makes more sense, and I'm happier with that. That does make sense, and especially for the SCR stuff, it's really something that's quite prevalent with Villa and a big problem at the moment. You mentioned that they're going to have to sign a wide player. Any kind of murmurs on anything in terms of income? Is you're expecting things to accelerate now, aren't you? Now there's been some outgoings, and once the other ones are ratified, I think you're expecting some incoming.
I think Villa will certainly be more positive now and more active. I don't know if there's anything imminent that obviously may change, but I do think you'll start to hear stories of Villa pursuing players now, and it's not going to be a case of going, "Oh, I thought they had no money." They've managed to claw some back, so they're going to try and be active. I've always had that suspicion, and the sense is the same from Villa staff, that they're going to be maybe deadline day might be quite frenetic, or the last week of the window. But I do expect Villa now to look for incomings. I do think they will eventually have some wiggle room on PSR and UEFA PSR and various financial restrictions. So yeah, this is an ever-changing picture every day. Something changes, and that's going to have a ripple effect to Villa's transfer plans.
Okay, the other thing we wanted to talk about, it is Villa related because he's an ex-Villa player, and it's Forest related. Again, it seems our old friend in midfield, Douglas Luiz, is going to join Forest with a obligation to buy if he hits a certain amount of appearances. But if he doesn't hit those appearances, they can buy him for 30 million euros, I think it was, I saw on the Athletic anyway. You get in the sense again, like Forest, I think people were talking about them, not disrespectfully, but as if they're not going to be up there competing again. They're building quite a nifty squad for me, I would say, and he'll really suit them down to the ground in midfield, Douglas Luiz. And it's, again, I said to you earlier, like, getting a bit fed up of football here, but now watching players that we're having to sell because of PSR playing for Premier League rivals on loan, it's quite disorientating was going to be the word I was going to use. I think that is a good word for one, but it's disenchanting as well, if that's a word. I've said two words there that I'm not sure are the right words.
It is, but I would say let's be patient. Let's see what happens and what Villa can muster up by September 1st, and then we might feel a little bit more positive. I think, yes, I think things will happen, and Villa fans will feel more positive. But as it is, you can see that fact that Nuno moans about the squad and how big a challenge it's going to be. What, 10 days ago?
Yeah, it wasn't even 10 days ago. It was less than a week ago, wasn't it? It was before the first game of the season.
And they spent like 150 million, and they still want a right back, maybe Villa's right back, and they still want Douglas Luiz. Yeah, you can see why fans are thinking, "Oh, come on, aren't they in trouble with PSR?" And I do think they will be in trouble with PSR at some point, Forest, again. But what I will say is, usually, like, this many players coming in, surely it's going to disrupt the balance. But Forest are used to.
They've still got the same core, haven't they? Though, like they need bodies to improve the squad quality. I look at their squad now and think pretty good. Got some good players. They've held on to their best players. We talk about Villa holding on to their players. They've lost Alanga, but I think Endor is a reasonable replacement for him, in all honesty.
That core of, like, Sels, Murillo,
Milenkovic.
Yeah, Milenkovic, Anderson, Gibbs White.
Anderson and Luiz and Gibbs White is the kind of three diamond, isn't it? That nice.
That's a really good team. Again, I still think even with all these great players, Forest are going to have a more difficult season because, like we saw with Emery's team last year, teams are going to start figuring out Forest. And I was shocked that teams aren't doing what actually Villa did to Bournemouth, for example, and says you can just have the ball. Because Forest are great on the counter and they don't want the ball much. That may change with obviously better players now signing. But I just think they'll be found out a bit more tactically this season. That should even itself out a bit.
I do like the look of them. I've got because they won their first game as well, so it's always galvanising, isn't it?
Yeah,
when you win your first game.
It was Brentford. I know Villa got Brentford.
Well, let's be careful saying that, Jacob. Let's be careful with that.
I watched the game back, and they weren't very good, were they, Brentford? They were more interested in set pieces than open play.
That's what happens when you employ a set piece coach. You might imagine that would be what happened if Austin McPhee was Villa manager. I think he'd be quite interested in the set pieces too, wouldn't he?
Yeah, and also Johan Visser as well. Is the uncertainty around him. So yeah, let's judge. If Brentford beat Villa, then you think, oh my word, Forest might be quite a decent side then.
Any early thoughts before we depart on kind of what he'll do at centre back on Saturday? I was having this debate earlier. I think Kamara might stay there.
I think Kamara. I said this to John Townley after the game. I said, I just sense Kamara being there because you got an easy solution in midfield. You can play Tillemans and Nana next to each other, and then Marlon, your guy, or
come on, man, you got to start now, surely.
Yeah, you do think that, and it's easier than playing two left footers, bringing them into a team and Powell and Mings all playing Bogard there, who, you know, against a physical set piece side may struggle at centre half. So I think that will be probably the best solution there with Kamara. It's not perfect, and it kind of shows you how vulnerable Villa are at centre back. The fact that Kamara is playing centre back in the second
Already.
game. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else before we depart? Any articles coming up before the end of the week?
I think I'm off tomorrow, so that's when probably things will break. But we've got a piece on Friday, I believe, on Villa's number 10 situations with Rogers, McGinn, Asensio, Buendia. So that'll go. All being well, and unless something else breaks before that. I just think, Cash is obviously the talking point of this pod, but I just think Villa can now hopefully be a bit more optimistic in terms of incomings.
Okay. Rogers winning Young Player of the Year last night was obviously good news.
Wonderful, wasn't it? Yeah, really good news. I'm glad he had a good time, and he looked like he enjoyed the evening. And I think it's good for his family and people around him as well, who seemed to go up and enjoy the night as well. I think he deserves it completely. And he got the Athletic Young Player of the Year in May.
Oh,
he's got a double. He's gone for the double, hasn't he? Yeah, really good though, and it shows that what an incredible season he had and breakthrough he had. This is a guy that couldn't even get into a Championship League One team 3 years back, and now he's Premier League Young Player of the Year.
I like the way he spoke afterwards about, like, I want to be in the England team. I want to be going to the World Cup. I want to carry on improving. I think he's got levels to go. Might be worth doing a show on Rodgers at some point. Actually, I did kind of touch on it on the show I did on my own yesterday, but I do think there's levels for him to go this season as well. Things he can still add to his game. He's already a frightening prospect, but there's stuff he can add to his game as well. So it might be worth doing that at some point.
I don't think he was at his best towards the end of last season, and he didn't start well against Newcastle. But one worry I will have, and maybe that hopefully, and I think it will alleviate soon with attacking reinforcements, is I think there's too much of a burden on Rodgers to create at the moment. If he doesn't create, Villa don't really do much, do they? So yeah, that's something to keep an eye on. But he's a really smart kid. He knew there was a lot of interest in him this summer, but he didn't get distracted. He's focused on Villa, and hopefully, once contract talks open at the end of the window, he can sign a new improved one.
I'm sure he will. Let's get that new contract signed. Morgan Rodgers will be his third contract already, and he hasn't even been at Villa 2 years.
Yeah, I doubt it'll be extension or probably one more year because he's still there. He's there till 2030. So
we never heard. So let's do a bit more. Throw a bit more at him.
Add a year, but I think it's more a case of just showing his status as a key player now and getting his salary more in line with those guys.
Fair enough then. Okay then, Jacob. Thank you very much for joining me this afternoon. I'm sure as soon as I press end recording, something will happen, and we'll possibly have to jump on again. But let's see what happens with that. But for now, thank you very much, Jacob Tanswell, and thank you very much to NordVPN, and thank you to you, the watcher and the listener as well. Don't forget to check out NordVPN. Don't forget to check out the content that's been out on the channel over the last few days. There's still plenty that you can go back and watch or listen to. If you've watched via YouTube, very close to 28,000 subscribers. If you're not subscribed, if you could subscribe with your post notifications on, that'd be great. Give us a like, leave us a comment with your thoughts on Cash and Bailey as well, if you like. If you're listening via Apple or Spotify, 5 stars, comments, reviews, all those things really, really help us as a channel. So if you could do that, that'd be great. I'll have the Stato preview tomorrow at the very least, and the match preview with Dave Reed on Friday, definitely coming up, and hopefully some more content as well if any transfer news breaks in the next 24 to 48 hours. But for now, that is it. So it's an Up the Villa from me and an Up the Villa from Jacob Tanswell.
Up the Villa.
Yes.